The court adjourns.
Of the classroom and not just only staying on the inside, I thought was highly interesting.
Supervising disaster centers and their readiness to supervising and identifying the weak spots during disaster and following up on the process the government made. So, how disaster is said as I So the first key point instant news is to ensure that they are on the ground, alerting and assisting in evacuating the disaster sites and providing instant news regarding the damages. We know who to contact crisis disaster emergency. It means that we are more disaster. Media, the first people to be on the ground. And then we communicate the needs. We spread news regarding available facilities and their use whilst supervising the distribution of facilities and aids in disaster areas and identifying the needs of victims. We first identify the we identify their needs. We identify psychologically. So that we open menyetla for humanitarian aid. And then this will lead us to encouraging humanitarian aid. Because how so now disaster crisis so through us as a media, we can to encourage humanitarian aid. And then after disaster, we have a key point being accountability. This is where we encourage humanitarian aid from people, organizations, and NGOs whilst following the policies regarding rebuilding and organizations of victims and supervising budgets spent on disasters. I encourage advocacy, encourage humanitarian aid. How sensory so like it's a film Mushala, Naka, company organization like foundation, Mushala. So after disaster, here we go to follow up on the progress to say foundation we learn so and so. So to account for that, those victims of money to see money, but also we investigate the consequences, investigating long-term and invisible consequences of the disaster by identifying weaknesses of disaster management and helping fix the problems, remembering the adverse effects in order to prevent future preventions. Radio program how do we talk to the public with evidence prevently disaster This is how we can help these disasters. So the impact of media, this is a generic information. They inform the public about emergencies and heighten awareness towards influences public opinion about how the disaster is being managed, how we determine the level of attention, introduction to disaster management that relief agencies pay to the particular disaster. Media provides instant information and are considered to be trusted sources, especially at the local level. The network's continuous and factual coverage of incidents and post-disaster events can aid decision making and response immediately after a disaster, thereby saving lives and property. So we have different media channels. We all know that radio television, newspaper, maybe 2 or 1 points under each. So we are saying radio is the most popular and widespread information tool used in disaster management due to its affordability and widespread reach. Radios are more readily available in homes, cars, schools, and at the workplace, and can quickly and easily transmit information to the public through disaster preparedness documentaries. Commercials designed to build awareness, discussion groups, and interviews, radio dramas, and call-in programs. We have radio, we have TV, we have newspaper, we have other printed material. The whole is to reach different target audience. They have specific radios. So we are willing to advocating for disaster preparedness with audience. So the media plays an integral and vital role in the management of disasters. Preparedness disaster. To form part of our database. To say, so it's our responsibility, it's our collective responsibility to respond to disasters. So partnership, media houses are ready to form part of World Vision database in disaster preparedness response. When such happens, we have people who are contact as our priority to say, but one will be with them on the ground. So we don't have media house so that we call them. We have ongoing media engagement on child protection and justice in children competition. So competition is 11 September. It fell like 10 November. Competition is focusing on 3 thematic areas, which is online sexual exploitation, which is trafficking in persons, and then hunger and malnutrition. So we are expecting stories, written stories, radio programs or TV programs. They're published. They raise awareness, because I can just write and I submit, but as World Vision to raise awareness. So how published stories is poeme ke a kgola ke hlokometse hore the submissioning hona le poem e ke e receiving e ngotswe ka pen, so ke kopa hore impe be published stories, impe be the radio programs tse eruweng and TV programs tse eruweng sebakeng sa dipotso kapo dintlha tse ding regarding this competition and the presentation e qetang ho etsa. I'm the right person ele ka mo consultant, ke tla sia dinomoro tsa ka le tle le bua le nna ka kotloloho. Ke a leboha.
And we're thankful for that. So that session was just to lobby us for we should be aware that there's a competition that's ongoing on Achim, which we hope we will all participate in and also published. At this moment, DMA representative, how are we going to complement each other? And then after that, Q&A session, then a breathe up, session one of the reps at DMA fell at so that we appreciate the work that we're going to be doing.
Dumelang bomme le bontate. Lebitso la ka ke Setori Dejaha, ke tswa ofising ya thibelo le taolo ya dikoduwa, the Disaster Management Authority. Re Disaster Management Authority a kopa ho qala ka ho leboha mmoka ona wa letsatsi la kajeno hoba project ena ya Echo 4 tla e sebetsa ka hare ho naha ya Lesotho diterekeng tse fapaneng jalo ka hantate tse kwa sa boletse ke a tshepa e le mogotlong le ribe masego le thabatseka e tla e thusa ho tlatsetsa mesebetsi yo mmuso wa Lesotho ka ofisi ya thibelo le taolo ya dikoduwa e ntse e etsa ka hare ho naha. Hangata o tla fumana hore ho tla thweng mmuso ha ona tjhelete. Jwale mmuso o na le tjhelete ka bomphato eo re sebetsang le bona. E leng hore ka hona ke re ofisi ya thibelo le taolo ya dikoduwa matsoho a yona ke bomphato ba rona tshebetsong. Private agencies, NGOs tse re sebetsang le tsona ba tshwanang le World Vision, WFP, Red Cross le ba bang. Ke sa ba thathamisi kaofela hoba ba bangata. Kaofela ha rona ha re le jwalo mandate wa tshwana. Sentse re leka hore re lokise Basotho e leng mo re reng a preparedness ha re bua ka language ya rona ya disaster risk reduction and management. Re lokisa Basotho hore ba tle ba tsebe ho itshematlela ha dikoduwa di le teng. Hape re ba thuse hore e tle re ha koduwa e ka ya ba otla kapa ya ba ama ba tle ba be boemong ba hore ba tle ba be le boitshematlelo. Ha re thuse Basotho fela ka hore e be re ha koduwa e se e le teng na re kena jwang. Re batla hore Basotho ba tle ba be boemong bo e leng hore ha koduwa e ka ba otla ba tle se ba lebella haholo thuso ho tswa ho motho a ka ntle, that is external assistance. Re batla hore rena le ka kgona ho ithusa jwang. So project ena ya World Vision mesebetsi e meng ya yona complementing initiatives tse sentse re di etsa tse leng hore rona jwalo ka ha ke hlalositse re le DMA ha re a tshwara mokotla re tshwere mokotla ka bomphato re batla hore re thuse setjhaba hore se le ntshwarele jwale setabeng ha o leka ho tswa ka Sesotho le Sekgowa. My apologies for that. Okay, let me jump. Anyways, ntshwarele. Re project ena ya World Vision ho rona e tlotla e re thusa hore re akofise mesebetsi ya rona e re thuse hore re anetse letsoho ho feta ka moo re ne re ka ra kgona ka teng jwalo ka ha re sa tshwara mokotla jwalo ka ha ntse ke tjho. Mme ka hona ke kopa ka kgola not in many words ke lebohe mofani e leng Echo le mphato wa rona e leng World Vision Lesotho ka initiative ena. Ka hodimo moo ke akgela ke kopa ho hopotsa setjhaba sa Basotho hore the Disaster Management Authority e sebetsa mosebetsi wa hore e akabele moo ho thweng ke koduwa e seng diketsahalo tse nyane. Koduwa ka tlhaloso ya rona re ke moo e leng hore palo e kgolo close to ha ke re batho ba amehileng mohlala ke dikgohola kapa heavy rains kapa sefefo kapa e ka ba re na le di-occurrences tse kgolo ke about 50% of the population. So ke akgola molaetsa nka ka kopang hore le re fetisetse ona ho Basotho ke hore DMA le ha ba ka tla ba re reportela di etsahala tse etsahetseng ho bona nke ke ra arabela re re ntho ke disaster. Our mandate is disaster. So a disaster is whereby about 50% of the population, maybe in that particular area, is affected. Jalo ka ha ke la ka utla mme wa communications wa World Vision o nantsa hlalosa hore kana go nngwe bona ye re ha matlo a chile kapa ho etsaetse jwang ebe ba ya ba thusana ke bomphato wa rona le tle se la Disaster Management Authority ka mohlomong ha ya etsa letho ke bomphato wa rona tshebetso jalo ka ha ke tshilo they are complementing the roles that we are already doing. So the Disaster Management Authority extends its hand through our partners. So this project, this beautiful project that we are going to have is still our project. We are the coordinating body in the country. All these other agencies, the NGOs and other private agencies who through their corporate social responsibility of their CSR, CSI initiatives, the initiatives more, they are following in what we are guiding them to do. Any other body which is doing disaster risk reduction, management, doing response initiatives in the country has to come through our office for us to guide them on what to do. The media house. Some of you, I can see your faces today. You were there at the meeting we had yesterday. Were anticipatory action in a meeting with WFP, whereby they were talking about how in the upcoming forecasted El Nino, they are going to respond. So WFP as well, like I stated, is another agency that is being coordinated by us as the Disaster Management Authority. So to the media, from the media house, o kopile hore re se ke ra le siya morao. On that being said, ke kopa hore ke re, yes, we noted that and we promise that going forward, we know that Mema shall be always in most of our activities. She invites you. But I would like to emphasize hore re kopa hore ha le re etsetsa coverage like Ntate Thapelo requested, le re etsetse coverage le ruta Basotho e le hobane ne le utlwisisa hore na re sebetsa jwang. For this particular project, I would like to emphasize once again that we are coordinating. Therefore, our partners, our hands, akere le Ntate Mohato o ntse ana le marena a dihlooho ba ntse bana le marena a dibaka. So DMA is Ntate Mohato in this particular position. It works with other chiefs, which are the agencies, to extend its hand to the ground. So we have put up our visibility here. In-house, we do not have the finances. Like everybody always says, and be seen in a very bright way, but we are trying our best to be seen, to be felt. So, kahona, ki emphasize hore Disaster Management Authority is here. It is making initiatives which are being complemented by our partners. Let me appreciate every one of you here today. I'm not sure if Ntate Thapelo, maybe I am the last speaker as the coordinating body, or there will be someone coming after me, but ke kopa hore ka mantswe ana ke tshepe hore ke buile hanyane ka ditaba tseo ne tshwantse ho bua ka tsona tsa Disaster Management Authority. Ka hona ke a leboha.
That was as far as our media breakfast meeting was done. And let's see how fair. We had a discussion. What was happening throughout the morning. We had a discussion. Feedback in 10 minutes. Either 10 minutes or whatever you need. Now is the opportune time you address before the main session in the morning. So the floor is now open to everyone else for now. Hana poso sa ona ka ba di feng, mo go tlhoka tlhagisetso ke feng, mo tlo tsa tlatsetso ko kae. Unless we want to wait for the main session, then ka mora yona, then we can talk. But ha ba utlwe ka hona le so far hona le gap e teng, ha re le ke go ya address hona tse. Okay.
Ke lebandate ke ne ke kgola nthe rona re ke holeditse okay ne ke re ke kgola ntha rona e rona re hlokang haholo re le bophatlalatsi to World Vision ko re le re dumelle hore re nolofalla ko ho fumana batho ba ikarabellang mafapheng. Ke kgola the reason behind this ko hore motho ha batla setsebi se itseng ditabeng mohlomong tsona tsa ditlokotsi le eng ka nako eo a bone an activity etsahala ha ra tle ho fumana batho ba no ho latela hore na re latela methati e metelele ha kae mme taba eno ke nngwe re sitisang hore ditlalong tsa rona tsa ditaba kapa ditoring tse re di ngolang ebe re ba le ditsebi mme ha re ka ra dumellwa fela hore ha re o hloka o le Ntate Thapelo ho fumane re se ke ra jwetsa hore jwale kwana re tlameileng ho romella dipotso emailing ke bonena o tlo bua eng le ena taba eno e re diisa ho lebile etsa hore mosebetsi wa rona o be bodutu e se bile ka ga batho ba sa tsebeng hore na re ngola eng bothata ke hore ditsebi tsa naha ya Lesotho
le mafapha a ikarabellang a nang le botsebi ba na le tsela e thata ya ho fumaneha. Ke taba ya pele. Ya bobedi ke hore World Vision ha o nka baphatlalatsi ba nke ka ho tshwana ho wena. Mahlong a hao ha o reka di-advert hore na ke ya kgiro ntate, hore na ke ya hao ya moo bapatsang eng kapa eng o e bapatsang. Ha se ke ra bona fela advert e hla newspaper-eng e le nngwe, le rona re bapala karolo e kgolo ditabeng tsa setjhaba, despite hore na re tlaleha ka Sesotho kapa ka Senyesemane, empa ra tshwana hobane molaetsa wa rona o mong ka hara setjhaba. Ke bua ka taba eno hobane ke re ke ithutile hore ka nako tse ding mafapheng a mang a sekisetswa ke World Vision ha e fana ka dipapatso. Le hoja hana jwale wa bona na re bokane re le bangata jwang, ho bolela hore o hloka kaofela ho bokanetse, mme o tla lokela hore le wena skala sa hao o batle o se lekane. Taba e nngwe e ke ratang ho e hlalosa molemong wa bophatlalatsi ke taba ena ya dikarohano tse bakwang ke mekgatlo e ikemetseng ka hare ho bophatlalatsi, haholo ha re tla ditabeng tse tlalehang, moo o tlo fumana hore ho entswe di-group tsa mafaphana ka ho fapakana. Moo o tlo fumana hore e se le group e itseng ho sothwe ke batho ba tlalehang ka World Vision, but next time ha ona le advert e hlokang hore ho tlo tla ho bua kapa ho hlaloswa taba e yang setjhabeng e pharalletseng, le re bitsa kaofela. Ditabeng tse ikwalletseng tse mona tse le yang metseng, ha le re bitse kaofela, le re bitsa di-inboxeng. That is wrong, Ntate Thapelo. Re bitseng kaofela o utlwe hore na ba nang le thahasello ke ba feng, ba senang yona ke ba feng. Haebe bekeng ena o la tsamaya le nna ke le moeletsi, bekeng e tla kong ke public eye, bekeng e hlahlama kong ke Lesotho Times, because taba tsena kaofela tsona ke re ha re ka ra di share ka tsela eo kapa ra di arolelana jwalo, e le hore le ke ba le taba yane ya sekgeo sa ditlaleho tse batlang di fapakana. Ke ya leboha ka nnete.
Phoso tse ding ha re ipona re di etsa akere, but ke kopa ho nka letso le leng la ho qetela re ra pepe session. Ke a hlokomela batho ba tlang for main session ba sentse ba fihla. Na hona le tlatsetso e nngwe teng. Ha ona tlatsetso e teng, ke a leboha fela sir. Just to wrap up this morning session, the whole idea is to ensure hore qetellong our country is one, disaster ready, has reduced its disaster risk. The whole essence is to ensure that all children are safe. And to do that is to partially include media. To wrap up this session, as World Vision, main session with everyone. Le tlo hlokomela di-themes tse fapaneng tse teng. Through those themes, you'll find them. Let us all find a slot se most suitable ho rona hore haeba ho bua logistical preparedness, where can you fit in? Haeba ho bua ntho itseng, where can you fit in and what can your role be? So ka o tjho jwalo fela ke re, let's just be open. We have an hour to the next session. In fact, 30 minutes to the next session pele all batho ba bang ba fihla. 30 minutes in a hare mingileng re tsebaneng, let's excuse each other hanyane. Itle ha main session e qala be re tsebaneng. If ona le potso ka World Vision, me re ntseng ke annotate our communications and digital officer ke ena wa World Vision. Ha o bua ka project e ya CSDRR, ke nna who will be able to hear that. You'll be able to get information from me. Hangata of tahanyane. Ke mona le man mo ke tla o refera. Ke mona le man mo ke tla o refera haeba o batla CB in terms of that, motho ana le experience yona ke eno. But for now, kopa dipotso kaofela di tla ho nna di ya ho mme re ntseng. Ka o tjho jwalo ke kopa for the morning meeting re qetile. Ke kopa ho e kwala, ke tla nka letso la hao on the side. Ha go tlolle maoto ka 9 o'clock re tla re qala jwale the main session ya ho launch a project ke a leboha.
Bomme le bontate, can I have your attention, please? Can I take this opportunity to say good morning to people who have just arrived? The morning session has finished and we're about to start our second session. So may I please request anyone of us to say a word of prayer so that we can start our work with a word of prayer. Okay, ke a leboha. Ka hare ho rona in our midst re na le mohlanka wa modimo ntate Moeketsi, ke kopa ho ikokobetsa mongaka ke tle ko fe sebaka sena hore o tlo tla hore leader lentsweng la morena le tla re sebeletsa hore re qale mosebetsi wa rona. Ke a leboha.
Thank you so much. Maybe if we could just take our seats just momentarily, I would appreciate that a lot. Good morning, bomme le bontate. Le phela hantle ka jeno. Ka nnete ke a phela. Before we say a prayer, I would like to invite your attention to a scripture text. Then we will expose it for a moment, then proceed to open us up in prayer. One of the things that I would like you colleagues to note is that every time throughout the history of humanity, every time when crisis hit, God would always raise a voice. Every time in times of disaster, crisis, difficulty, persecution, God would always raise a man or woman. And it's important for you to understand this because for the well-being of Basotho, for the prosperity of this nation, for survival of children and women, it's imperative that we understand that God is raising a voice. And God is raising your voice. And God is raising you. You are here because God has a particular interest in the welfare ya banna le basadi ba Basotho. I would also submit that you are doing what you are doing because God has a passion and heart for disaster preparedness, for well-being of the people of this nation. Therefore, for a time such as this, you have been appointed, you have been ordained in that responsibility that you're executing. You are doing it so that Basotho, in particular children, can enjoy life in all its fullness. Now, I want to invite you to Hebrews chapter number 10, verse 23. Hebrews chapter number 10, verse 23, it's a common literature. And the text reads that, let us hold on tightly to the confession of our hope. Let us hold on strongly to the confession of our hope. For he who has promised us is faithful. When we look at the crisis in this nation, when we look at vulnerability in this nation, when you look at abuse and exploitation, when you look at corruption, when you look at so many ills that are prevalent in our communities and in Lesotho as a country, you begin to, doubt whether we'll make it. You begin to perhaps doubt whether our children and their children will find hunto hona le setjhaba, hunto hona le naha yeo re ka ra ikotlang sefuba ka yona. But this morning, what I want to invite you to is this literature. The text here says, let us hold on tight to the confession of our hope. What is that hope? We hope that as we come together and collaborate as stakeholders and partners, our hope is that one day Lesotho will be a better place. We hope that one day abuse will be a conversation of the past. We hope that the vulnerable communities will be better prepared. We hope that when disaster hits, our people will be resilient. We hope that our people will be economically emancipated. We hope that corruption will be a conversation of the past. We hope that peace will be the order of the day. And we hope that children can dream and envision a better tomorrow for themselves. This is the kind of hope that we have. And the writer says, let's not lose sight of this hope. We are here today, even as we launch this project. And what I want to invite you to do, and the perspective that I want to invite you to is that don't let go of the hope. Don't let go of this hope. If we let go of the hope that our nation will be better, then we'll fold our arms. But I believe that you are here because God has raised you as a man, God has raised you as a woman, but most importantly, God has raised you as a voice of advocacy, a voice to advocate for better, to advocate against the ill. And may we take ownership of this hope and may we run with it in our different responsibilities, in our different sectors, in our different designations. May we hold on tight to this hope and continue to proclaim it. That this Lesotho that we'll see today will not be the same in the near future. And it will be because of you. It will be because of I. I'm inviting you to rise to your feet as we pray. Modimo wa bontata rona mehleng ya boholo. Tshepo ya dilemo tse tlang. Wena ya bileng le mothei wa setjhaba sena, Morena Moshweshwe. Wena ya nang le morena wa setjhaba sena le ha jwale. Wena ya nang le setjhaba sena le kajeno. Today, as we come together, God, we want to call on you for a hope reignited. A hope that amongst so many social ills and challenges that we are faced with as a nation, that we shall overcome. We pray that may you continue to raise us as a voice. May you continue to raise us as champions for development, people who will be relentless in capacitating Lesotho and ensuring that they are disaster resilient, ensuring that our people are economically emancipated, ensuring that children are protected against harm and violence, and ensuring that women are protected. Father God, we pray even as we start this day, that may you be the point of reference for these deliberations. But God, we also pray that may you lead and guide us in these deliberations. We want to pray and pronounce your blessing upon the project. We want to pray and pronounce your blessing upon the stakeholders and partners who are present here today. We are here for a common purpose, and this common purpose is a better Lesotho, and we believe that it shall be so. We hold and profess our faith that Lesotho, through the work of our hands, will not be the same even in the near future. May our hearts be brought to a place where this confession of our hope becomes true, and we execute it through our work, through our organizations. We pray this in the name of him who loved us, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maiketsi, for reminding us that this hope that we have will make our country disaster ready and our communities will be prepared for disasters. So we'll be a different nation through the implementation of this project. Thank you so much, Ndate. At this time and moment, I would like to call to the podium the National Director of World Vision, Ndate James Chifelu, for the welcome remarks. Thank you, Ndate.
Thank you. Kialevo. Dumelang womele wontat. Dumelang womele wontat. Oh, maybe I'm not pronouncing it very well, isn't it? Okay. Okay. Lebisolaka ki James Chifuelu, Mukamedi World Vision Lesotho. I'm very happy to be with you this morning, and it's just a very brief remark that I'm going to share this morning. May I just say, all protocols observed, but I recognize the presence of a number of you, and thank you very much for making it. I know we have representation from the media. We do have representation from FNCO, CRIS, ADRA, LHDA, LMPS, FIRE, FMU, DMA, and the Minister of Gender, Youth, Sports, Arts, Culture, and Social Development. I hope I'm pronouncing it very well. We should have had more than this, but I think we received apologies by the Principal Secretary or the PS in the Prime Minister's office, who should have been here with us. The EU as well was supposed to be represented by one of the officers there, but they have a morning urgent meeting, so they are not able to make it to this gathering. So I just want to say one or two things about World Vision. For those of you who may not be very, very clear about who we are, I don't want to take a lot of time about that. If you forget what World Vision is, I always say that you just remember the 3 C's and the 3 themes or 3 thematic areas. So the 3 C's of World Vision, if you forget who we are, just remember that we are Christian organization, we are child-focused, and we are community-based or community empowering. So Christian, child, and community. That defines us. Then the 3 focus areas are 1, long-term development. You have seen in some areas we've been there for years through what we call area programs. Another area of focus for World Vision is advocacy. You've seen us also engaging at different levels with different layers of leadership, including the community. And the 3rd pillar of World Vision is disaster management, which is, we call it humanitarian and emergency affairs. And I think that's what brings us here. So we are here under the 3rd pillar of World Vision, which is dealing with disaster management. So thank you very much for making it once again. So we're here under the auspices of an essential initiative, the European Union funded disaster risk reduction project, which is dubbed Strengthening and Consolidating National and Community Capacities for Effective Disaster Preparedness and Response in Lesotho. Now, this is the 4th phase of a series of projects that we have been implementing in Lesotho, funded by the European Union, which is ECHO, the European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations, the arm of the the EU dealing with disaster management. So this is the fourth phase, which is going to cover approximately 2 years. We have been having a number of projects starting from 2018 and up to now in projects that we dubbed phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and this is phase 4. And through a number of those projects, we have empowered village disaster management teams, VDMTs. We have also provided emergency life-saving packages and most recently distributed cash to the tune of 1 million euros to 3,600 households, covering more than 17,000 individuals. This was to help them to meet their daily needs in communities that were regarded as food insecure. We targeted the rural communities that were assessed to have been very vulnerable, that is in Mokhotlong, Tabaseka, and Leribe. And we really thank all the partners who participated to work with us, and the communities were really appreciative of this. This current phase that we are talking about today, it is coming out of an application we made for additional funding from ECHO, and we are happy that it was successful. This solidifies our long-standing cooperation and harmonious relations with the European Union. Today, we proudly introduce this project, which is CSDRR, a 2-year project designed to implement or to be implemented in the hard-to-reach areas of Maseru, Mokhotlong, Leribe, and Tabaseka. This project is built on 5 key result areas. I think that's what we'll be focusing on in the next 2 years with this project. Number 1 is strengthening a functional multi-hazard early warning system to reduce the impacts of shocks and disasters. I'm sure when the project team shares more details, you understand what that means. The second key result area is strengthening logistics, preparedness, capacities of local institutions through strategic emergency stockpiling and management training. The third area is enhancing coordination among local and national institutions for disaster preparedness, including mainstreaming disaster preparedness policies and guidelines across all sectors. The fourth area is enhancing the education in emergencies, policy environment, and disaster preparedness and response capacities of schools. The fifth and last area that we'll be focusing on with this project is with a crisis modifier, we will aim to assist households in responding to rapid onset shocks and emergencies. And we have been very active in this area of responding to shocks and emergencies. I'm sure DMA will confess to that, and we've been consistently responsive whenever the requests come regarding a situation that we don't expect. It would be it a fire, be it some disaster hitting a household or a community. So we are committed to this moving forward as well. So in the next 2 years, our collective aspiration is to achieve these results through collaborative efforts and joint activities. And that's why we are here as partners, because we believe that World Vision cannot do it alone. We are just a part of the bigger picture. Every organizational partner do play their part to make it a success in dealing with the community needs. We aim to support all disaster risk management institutions and activities in the districts that we are going to be working in. Our global strategy seeks to enhance collaboration with the government and relevant stakeholders to ensure that Lesotho reaches and fulfills these targets outlined in the National Disaster Risk Reduction Strategy and Action Plan 2020 to 2030. And this plan aligns with the Sendai Framework 2015 to 2030, which focuses on 4 areas. 1, understanding disaster risk. 2, strengthening disaster risk governance to manage disaster risk. 3, investing in disaster risk reduction for resilience. 4, enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and building back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. So as you can see, this project is not a standalone, it is a clear complementation of the government focus. So we are here complementing the focus that government has already, and also helping the government achieve its obligations that are there to the international institutions and frameworks. In this context, our project also contributes to achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which calls for urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts, particularly in preparedness and risk reduction. Reducing disaster risks and preparing for potential disasters is a responsibility we all share as partners. And as I mentioned, it's not just a World Vision obligation, but we are here to work as partners for the good of the community and society in Lesotho. Let us all unite and protect our children from the harsh realities of climate change. Kia lebo hila holo, tate mudima belelona.
Thank you so much, Dr. James, for the warm welcome remarks, and again reminding us of why are we here. We had apologies from 2 offices that were invited. So I think at this time, we will have our project background that will be facilitated by Mema Mello. Mema Mello, the stage is yours, Me Galebo.
Of the ECHO-funded projects. As Ndare James has alluded that this is the 4th phase of ECHO project, I'm going to take us through a journey of where it started. I will not repeat. He has already made us aware that today we are here because of the humanitarian emergency affairs in which the ECHO-funded project, which is the CSDRR, is functioning under. As humanitarian emergency affairs within World Vision, we are responsible for the full disaster management cycle, which is mitigation, preparedness, and now also anticipatory action and response and recovery. So all these phases of the disaster management cycle is what the Office of HEA in World Vision does. And as he alluded that we do have developmental centers that are functional in the 8 districts of Lesotho. We also then look at gaps and then come up with projects, donor-funded projects, like the one that we will be talking about today. Where did we start? In 2016, World Vision, in partnership with the Action Aid, which was still in Lesotho then, were in partnership doing the multi-purpose cash transfers, where we were implementing in Kachasnek and Skuti. And we reached 13,000 households. And it was during implementation of this project that we identified gaps. And some of the gaps that we identified during implementation of the multi-purpose cash transfer was lack of disaster risk knowledge interpretation, both in communities, mid-level, but also even with other ministries that would be functioning together with the Disaster Management Authority. We also picked up lack or poor access to early warning systems and early action plans, preparedness and mitigation, together with prevention strategies. We also realized that there was poor monitoring and evaluation of early warning systems and low or non-existence of community disaster preparedness plans. We further realized that there were centralized government initiatives towards shock-responsive social protection and non-existence of fragmented DRR, disaster risk reduction advocacy networks. And there were non-existent disaster contingency fund. And there was a huge gap in disaster management coordination. To wrap all those challenges that we identified during that implementation, for people that were there in 2016, we would recall that we did not have what we would say is a minimum expenditure basket in Lesotho, which was fully coordinated, which was fully utilized by different stakeholders that were supporting the Disaster Management Authority at that time. Because of that and other reasons, we did not have database of beneficiaries that were vulnerable at that time. The cause of those effects was that by the time we started distribution of funds to the vulnerable families, it was way into the drought. And this is what culminated into our journey with eco disaster risk reduction programming. In 2018, we wrote our first, what we call Eco Phase 1 project proposal, which was now focusing rather not on giving cash, but building up the resilience, building up the capacities of communities, building up the preparedness in terms of ensuring that communities have community disaster preparedness plans and trying to link them with the disaster multi-hazard plans. So we started in 2018 and we were implementing together with the Lesotho Red Cross. They were implementing in Kachasnek and we were implementing in Mokotlo. And we reached about 10,000 beneficiaries. We did not implement in the full district, but in certain councils. Then we went to phase 2. We realized that we have done a lot, but there's still a lot that we can do. Just to share some of the things that we did and the target groups We were targeting the village disaster management teams. We were targeting the village, the VACs. We were targeting the farmers. We were targeting national and district local government, general community members, including children and people with special needs, with information on what is a disaster. What is it that you can do to try and mitigate a disaster, because you cannot stop it. But if you know other means of reducing the impact, it will come better. So we did our preparedness. And then in 2020, we further applied for more funding, which we now called Eco Phase 2, which was targeting 12,000 beneficiaries. We continued in Mokhotlong, but in different councils. And now we also included Tabatseka in the selective councils that were shown to be the most vulnerable as per the IPC, as per the Lesotho Vulnerability Assessment Committee. So we ran the project from 1st June 2020 to 30th November 2021. We were still targeting mainly communities. We were mainly, as Ndade James, if you cannot remember anything, remember the 3 C's. We are a community-based organization. And then we ended that project. We further applied for more funding because we could still see that the gaps that we had analyzed were still not yet different. They were still there, and we still needed to do more. So we came with Eco Phase 3, which has just ended now in July 2023. And this was one of the biggest because in itself it had 3 components. It had the disaster risk reduction, and it came during the COVID season. And we were also able to reach about 400,000 people through media. So I would always say, media, you should always pat yourselves on the back, because where our hands cannot reach, you will always reach. It was through media, it was through social media, it was through other different media that we could use. And it also came when we were becoming aware that the weather changes, the climate change is starting to affect people's food security. And we were able to reach 3,816 households with multi-purpose cash transfers. And we were now working in Mokhotlong, Tabatseka, and Liribe. So if you look at the ECHO project, it has been consistently growing. And this is one of the partnerships that has seen us working so closely with the Disaster Management Authority. And we have completed Phase 3, and we will be starting Phase 4, which is what has brought us here. Why are we so persistent? Why do we keep finding funds for disaster risk reduction? Why do we always keep looking for money? Early in the morning, Ms. Dori gave a nice speech and said the government of Lesotho does not have funds, especially the contingency fund towards disaster preparedness, towards responses, towards building capacities in the communities. And this is what, as an organization, keeps propelling us to support Basotho. But on top of that, we see that Lesotho continues to experience unprecedented and erratic weather conditions, ranging from drought, which we are now in drought. For those that attended the anticipatory action meeting yesterday, they will remember that we have already had the first trigger. So we are now, as organizations, starting to think, what is it that we can do? One, to support the Disaster Management Authority. Two, to ensure that even if a disaster hit, because you cannot prevent it, we have already done some preparatory work. We have already looked into the family needs to say, this disaster should not have the same impact that it would have done had we not prepared. And currently, we are doing anticipatory action. And we are expecting the drought to now intensify. Secondly, we further saw that the scenario in the country still experiences snowfalls. We have seen this erratic weather. We have seen snowfalls now in September in the mountains. We have seen erratic, cold, hot, warm, and we are now into September. We also still continue to realize hailstorms, strong winds, localized floods, and early frost. Lesotho as a country, its vulnerability to hazards is compounded by a number of factors, this including high levels of poverty. And this was also compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, where we saw huge loss of work in the factories, in the farms, and everywhere else. And we have scattered settlements, which makes service provision and access difficult. For those of you who watch news, I am very specific on things that I watch. And recently, we were all noticing Morocco. Morocco had an earthquake. And one would not have thought in those high mountains, high above 1,800 meters altitude, you would experience an earthquake. Where I was seated, I asked myself, is it possible in Lesotho? And I said to myself, it is. It is. Because we are in an era where climate change effects are starting to show up. And they're showing up so ugly that they affect areas that we never thought could be affected. And if you look at the same topography of Morocco where they had an earthquake, it's a similar topography to what we have in our highlands. So these are some of the vulnerability and hazards that we find ourselves. If a hazard would hit similar to Morocco, would we have access to those people? Would we have access to even serve them? Even if we have water, we have food, will we be able to service them? So these are some of the reasons that are compounding the effects of vulnerability and hazards in Lesotho. We further still have high HIV prevalence in Lesotho. And it affects health services, it affects family behaviors, it affects family security, it affects a whole lot of things. And we continue to have the existence of vulnerable groups, such as orphans and vulnerable children. It keeps increasing. It keeps increasing. It brings in new elements, trafficking in persons. It keeps increasing because of the very same poverty. We look at the socio-economic status of our country, and we can see that unless we remind ourselves, disasters is our responsibilities. And disasters are cost-effective when you work on preparedness, when you prepare people than in responses. Many of you would know that we are still, up until today, as we're standing here, and we already have a new El Nino coming. We still have not recovered from the 2016 El Nino. So, what is it that we need to do together, collectively. And this is how we came up with ECHO Phase 4, which is now going to a higher level. I will not get into it in detail. Somebody else will come and do that presentation. Also, we have our majority of populations that lives in rural areas, depending on subsistence agriculture for their livelihoods. So if we still have the fields that were washed off, the fields that dried off from 2016, and then we had the floods in between, it means they are not able to recover. So it is time that together we bring in new methodologies to attack this animal that has got a potential to affect this whole country. We also see that the viability of these people is threatened by adverse conditions attributed to hydrometeorological and ecological hazards aggravated by poor environment and land management practices. Indeed, I just wish and hope these ministries have changed names. I'm not sure if land management is still under forestry or if it is now somewhere else. But I can make a typical example of our crazing methods. 50 years ago, we were using the same crazy methods that we're still using today. We still take the animals to the A, to the B, to the C, the same times that used to be, even though we have climate change. We still continue to affect even the wetlands. So for us, this is bigger than just looking at that tiny little part where World Vision comes in to do a project. It says, all of us, we have got a part to play. We have got dams. I'm happy Lesotho Highlands Development Authority is here, whereby in some of the communities that we work, in other times, they do not get early warning, timely, and they get affected if the river would be open, the dam would be open, or if there is an overflow. What do we do to bring together all the resources that we have as organizations, as government? What is it that we can do to ensure that we work towards this? Why Phase 4? Limited implementation and promotion of inclusive disaster management policies. We know that even in districts, even here in Maseru, we have what we call the district disaster management team. And members or people that would be participating in such fora are like Mamelo. They cannot make any decision. They go there, they listen. And if their manager doesn't allow them to go, they do not go. And this is because we see it as a disaster management authority issue. And it is collective. Until we see it that way, we will still be experiencing heavy disasters. Threat to sustainability of disaster preparedness capacities in schools. In schools, we have done our part, whereby we train teachers on disaster risk reduction, with the hope that they will be able to utilize that small, I don't know if it's a chapter or if it's a paragraph of DRR that you will find in the curriculum. And if we do not start teaching our children about disasters, they don't know what is a disaster. They don't know that there is a disaster looming when you are playing soccer. They don't know that there is a disaster looming when you are riding a bicycle. They don't know that there is a disaster looming when you are playing on the ground and starting for the ghetto. They don't know all those disasters. And until they understand the causes, the root causes of disasters, we will still hit it at the top, but not in the roots. So we are striving and supporting the Disaster Management Authority towards capacities of schools. Why phase 4? We seek to strengthen coordination and consolidation of disaster preparedness of communities, district, and national capacities for effective disaster preparedness, crisis response, which, if we can, we do not want to respond. We want to build the capacity. We want to do anticipatory action to avoid the big cost of responding, and resilience against shocks and disasters in Lesotho. So, this is our work with ECHO as a donor, as World Vision, where we started and where we are and where we will be going. The main reason is that for today, we're getting deeper technically to understand exactly what is it that the phase 4 will be seeking to achieve, what indicators. And as they will be presenting such, you must start seeing yourself in the whole path, in the whole framework, in the whole theory of change. You must start looking at where is FMU here? Where is LHDA here? Where is the DMA here? Where is FNCO here? Because this is the crux of why we are presenting this project to all stakeholders that have got a stake in disaster risk reduction. I thank you very much. Thank you, me.
Thank you so much, Memamelo, for taking us through this journey of World Vision and ECHO as a funder and together with our stakeholders. So I think at this time, everyone understands that disaster management is his or her business. Hasita ya disaster management e authority ki boikarabello ba motho e mong le mong a teng ka kwano. For the sake of clarity on what Memamelo has just presented, ke kopa ho bulela dipotso mo ebang ha re a hlakelwa. We can ask questions based on what Memamelo has just presented.
Any questions?
Can we have questions? Clarity?
No questions. That means I'm a presenter. Okay. In the absence of questions, I just want to take the time to welcome Dade Massa, the WFP head. Welcome, Dade. I was worried when I didn't see you. I was going to say at the end of the meeting, was he here and was he able to talk? Welcome, Daddy. No questions for me. Okay, going once. Gone.
We thank you so much, Memamelo, for the wonderful presentation you have just already said. The audience is so clear and they understand the disaster management and our responsibilities as individuals, as organizations, as departments. So, hi, Banning, we are clear. according to our program. This time we will have our group photo. The Tetapelo will facilitate that, but I think the photo will be taken inside. We're not going outside. The Tetapelo, can you please facilitate and please lead us on how we are going to take this photo? And I think after the photo shooting, we will have our break. We'll have our tea break, of which I think it is ready there. Yeah, Lebo.